Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Mark. Hope you can I get at least somebody to let me know if you can hear me at this point yet?
I can.
Yes.
All right, excellent. Figured I should start with that, and then I'll go ahead and get this thing sharing. I may knock out the participant panel here a little bit just so that it's not interfering with your guys' view of what's going on here. So yeah, my name is Mark Earnest. As Deb said, I've been dealing with PTC stuff for quite a few years now. It's almost coming up on 25 years of working with PTC products. And during that time, I have worn a lot of hats, application engineering, customer experience, training, implementation, pre-sales, technical, post-sales, technical, and a brief stint in there is actually doing mechanical engineering. I am based in Wisconsin. At the moment, I'm actually down in New Mexico on my way back home tonight. And I did happen to see Henry on this list, so that's somebody I haven't seen for a while. We recognized a couple other names that on here this morning, so good to see you all and be able to share some information with you today. So the presentation today was kind of based on something that happened at a customer I was working with recently when we were doing a presentation to the user base about some updated information in Windchill, and I got the idea to kind of go back and remind folks and let folks get some tools and some ideas for how you could extend Windchill further into your organization. Whether it's within your department using more of the tools that are part of Windchill, or if it's bringing other departments into Windchill and getting more visibility for this product throughout your system. There's benefits to both of those. If we're going to be using it more, more of its capabilities to help you do your job, then you're going to wind up with hopefully a more effective, set of tools to get your job done more easily and with less time and waiting. If you're able to spread Windchill's implementation out into other areas, benefiting other groups, other departments, solving other business issues, then that's going to hopefully give you and your group of folks who are already using it just some more opportunity to continue improving it and to continue utilizing the toolkit that you have in place without having to always introduce new stuff. Because if anybody's cleaned out your basement recently, or your shop, or your garage, you probably saw some tools you haven't used in a while and maybe forgot about. So that's another little way to look at what we're talking about today too, is to look at some of the things that, not only are there new areas of Windchill and other areas of Windchill that can help out, but there's also a bunch of stuff that you may already have in the system, in the toolbox that's sitting on a computer or a server at your disposal that you just aren't using all of those tools yet. So we'll walk through that stuff. We'll start by kind of looking at what people had, at what you have today, and what resources you have to learn more. Then we'll kind of have everybody take a little mental exercise and going to try to figure out why their company started using Windchill and looking at the tools that you already have in-house. And then we'll talk a little bit about where you can go from here and how that goes. I'm going to be jumping around a little bit in terms of how we're talking about this. And a big part of that is different things are going to resonate. You guys, the folks watching today, whether you're live or whether you're watching a recording, you're all in different roles and responsibilities, and everybody has different disciplines, and there's lots of different things that might trigger your interest and trigger your ability to to talk about Windchill and to figure out how to make it more worthwhile for your organization using those tools. So as we start looking at what we have in-house, where can we find out more about what Windchill can do for us? So one of the places we can look for that is a little bit of the self-help stuff. Looking around, talking to if you're new to Windchill, find some other folks in your organization that have been around a little bit longer, that have delved into it more deeply or used it in other locations at prior jobs. Find out what they're looking for and how else they can use Windchill or what other issues they're struggling with today, and looking at where those things can be utilized. Within the knowledge base, as I spend a lot of time looking in there. Everybody who is a PTC customer, if you're paying maintenance, you have access to the knowledge base. If you're using subscriptions now, you have access to the knowledge base. And I look in there whenever I can't find, if I can't figure out how to do something, I'll do searches in the knowledge base. If I'm troubleshooting an issue with something, I'll be searching in the knowledge base. And at least at least one time out of 4, I'm going to wind up stumbling across something that's unrelated to exactly what I'm looking for, but something to put in the back of my mind for something in the future that I can use for some other issue or some other way to utilize Windchill or something else to implement. I do implementations at a lot of different companies all over the place, and I'm always coming across new ways to utilize this tool. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, we were looking at a company that has been doing some records digitization and talking about how, and we were considering, one of the things that we may start talking about is how to use the parts link or parts categorization for cataloging, not just for components, for purchase components off the shelf cataloging like the traditional way of libraries using. There's always different things that can come up just from random connections, talking to other people or reading documents and reading up on stuff. It's pretty fascinating what we can do with this. We'll talk a little bit more about the online learning tools here in just a couple slides. I'm going to go into a little more detail on those as well. The PTC does have a decent set of pre-existing documents that we can go off of. If I'm working on the system, it looks like I was going to blow that. This was more for folks learning to do the implementation. This is where I cut this slide out of a different presentation, and I was going to yank that first one, but because we generally build our own implementation processes using these as a guide. But if we're talking about looking for other ways you can learn about what Windchill does, the read this first, the what's new guides, the installation administration, they'll reference things that you may not be using today that are quite possibly already in the tools that you have. So sometimes learning about those is a good way to learn about what else the system's got on board. If you haven't used PTC's knowledge base, I strongly encourage you to go ahead and create an account. I know there are certainly companies out there that want all support questions to go to their internal support team for Windchill, and then they'll go take care of it. And sometimes that's because they want to, hopefully that's, if that's the guidance that your company is using, they're doing it so that they can figure out how they can best help you from their internal resources and for future training. If your company doesn't have something like that set up and you've ever struggled with something in any of the PTC products, or frankly, any product, find their help system and use it. I still run into people all the time that are loath to use help systems. And if you are looking for ways to do that, please reach out to Integreyt or any of your other providers. We've got, it's another presentation that I often do is how to utilize PTC's help system effectively. And those tools and tips can be utilized at any, in just about any help system that's a large scale product. And learning to use this effectively can really make you valuable to your team and anybody else that's having trouble, because they, figuring out how to navigate a help system, how to get effective call resolutions, those are things that are of high value. So PTC's system is actually pretty good for being able to search through and do this once you start poking around in there a little bit. The knowledge base articles, as you search through it, there is, as you can see on the screen in front of you, there's, whenever you do a search, you're going to come up with additional filtering on the left. As you mouse over search results, it blows up and shows you a little preview of it beyond the short preview. So you've got like 2 different levels of preview before you even bother clicking into an article. And the search system is pretty comprehensive. And I'm often able to, even if I don't solve a problem when I'm searching in here, I'm able to take additional steps toward that solution. And I'm able to rule out paths that may not be valid, probably 8 or 9 times out of 10. I'm able to make some sort of progress on issue resolution in here. And again, if you're looking for something new and a new way to utilize Windchill, this is not a bad starting point. There are, if you see the first hit on here was a knowledge hub. PTC's been putting more and more of these knowledge hubs into their system so that they can, so that it can be a new education point for folks for learning about stuff and learning about how Windchill can be used for you. Also, if you are if you have a direct PTC University subscription, or if you have the subscription to Windchill or Creo, you should also have access to PTC University. The PTC University, PTC is going through a little bit of change right now. If you're not familiar with this, this is a switchover period. PTC University is slowly being replaced with Learn Online. So the newer releases of the software, Learn Online is the location where that content is, but this one is still available and should be for some time yet. And this is included in subscriptions, and it's got a ton of valuable material. Even if the release of, say, a Creo course is several releases old, it's a great place to learn a little bit more about how some of that functionality can be used. And remember, if you're going through this, you don't have to spend the time going through a full course. You can look for specific modules of a course and just learn on that information. And that's, again, ways to extend what you know about Windchill or Creo. The Learn Online, it just looks a little bit different. That's trainingcentral.ptcu.com. Now, to kind of take the path a little bit different direction here, we talked to, now we want to think about why companies started using Windchill, because there's often some different reasons about why folks started using Windchill. I know there's some people on this call whose companies simply migrated from Pro Intralink, which was the predecessor of Windchill. It took me some time to find these screenshots because that program's been dead for a while. But there are plenty of companies out there that are still using this big Windchill product as a replacement for Intralink and haven't pushed themselves to reap any of the additional benefits that Windchill provides beyond managing your CAD systems. Even if you didn't start back in the Intralink days, there's plenty of companies that picked up a Windchill PDM link for a very specific need. And if you did, I truly hope that is still bringing you value by resolving that need or addressing that need. But keep in mind, there's a lot of other ones out there too. If there's plenty of companies that picked up a data management system for their CAD systems just so they could rename objects effectively, because it handles it all in the database instead of having to rely on the user to find all of the related objects. It is, but if that's what you're using it for, there's plenty of other areas where you can extend the value of Windchill into your system. Whether some folks, some companies picked it up because the PTC marketing pushed them. The PTC marketing caught their attention at a time, and then it becomes a question if there was something new and exciting that they thought would be something that would help transform their business or transform your company's business. Did you actually complete the execution of that? Or did the day-to-day work of getting product out the door take over and slow you down so that you got partway to the ideal solution? If that's the case, re-engage with that solution and make Windchill go the rest of the way for you so that you can really complete those original goals of transforming your business to whatever level you're trying to do. Windchill is, PTC has really been focusing on extending Windchill beyond just managing your CAD data into something that can really help companies meet business needs. A slide I didn't try to put into here, if anybody's been around long enough, PTC used to have these giant roadmaps that addressed lots of different business needs and business segment needs, and mapping it to different specific functionality of within their tool set here of the Windchill PDM Link and Project Link software. And that stuff is still valuable because, again, there's if you've brought this tool in and it's running on servers in your company, there's still people out there who are bringing in new tools to solve problems when they already have the tools to solve that problem in-house. And that's a big part of what I'm trying to help you call attention to in your company is rather than having to learn a bunch of new tools, use one of the ones you've got in-house already. One of the big things that PTC was pushing for a while and is still very true in Windchill is getting all of your information into one place. PTC's term for that was the single source of truth. You know, it's not just storing your CAD models, or even if it is, maybe it's bringing your CAD model, your design CAD models together with your manufacturing and your assembly process. If you have service information and service documentation, that stuff can come in here, and you can really use Windchill to collect as much information as you want into your, into a single location, and manage it effectively. To do those business transformations, you're probably going to want to work with some folks that have helped you on that, that have helped other people on that path before. They may be internal to your company, or you may want to seek a services organization. Again, that's one of the things that Integreyt does, and there are other providers out there as well. Plenty of them are also involved in the user groups, both in Wisconsin and elsewhere. As we're kind of continuing along here, another one of the big things that people have used Windchill and other data management packages for is managing how their objects change over time and how they mature throughout their life cycle. I mean, Windchill is a product life cycle management software. And to that end, there are multiple ways to manage that change. And the most rudimentary in Windchill is setting state. A little bit more traceable and a little bit more managed is promotion requests. And then the most comprehensive is the full closed loop change process. The promotion request and the change process are heavily configurable so that you can match it to something that works for your organization with however much of the data you already have in Windchill. And if change management is something that gets you down, this is a way that in most of the companies where Integreyt has been involved in the past, and I personally, this is one of the areas that almost always is a pain point, is that change management is slow. Change management still has lots of paper requirements, or there's stuff that gets stalled out in places, or there's things that don't wind up getting into their read-only state and somebody accidentally changes them. So, a great way to extend Windchill or to get more out of Windchill for your organization is to go from one of these down, to the next bigger level of the pyramid, and take advantage of that and get some more control over your objects and be able to do it in an automated fashion. The change process, whether you do the full closed loop or not, it has a workflow that executes against, and it can automatically advance things from one spot to another. And if you configure it, depending upon what your wants are, you can make it bug whoever's turn it is to do stuff next until they actually get it done. So that way stuff doesn't sit on somebody's desk for weeks at a time. So there's lots of ways in here to this component alone is a big help, and this is in all of the out-of-the-box systems. So when we talk about getting more out of Windchill, this is one of the biggest areas that companies can really do better with and use as a means of relatively easy way to improve their processes and their workflows in their organization, is to utilize this stuff. So if your company's not doing that, this is a great opportunity. This is a great place to look for ways to improve how your company handles changes. Again, even if you have another change management system that works throughout your whole organization, just utilizing this component for however much stuff you have in Windchill can be valuable. And that makes a pretty decent transition into talking about what you already have in Windchill in your system. So to kind of take a look at that, this is more of an admin side, but you can also get this information as a regular user. But what components of Windchill are used? Windchill is a Windchill is a system that's made up of multiple different components, and PTC includes some of these optional components are included with the base packages of Windchill. Others are additional purchases. But looking at what you have already can also give you an indication of how much, what other tools are on the shelf already for you, and which ones you might want, if you're, depending upon what your business need is, what other ones you might need to go look at. If you're looking at Windchill, most likely, the database one, doesn't really matter which database you're on as far as how better you can use Windchill. But which applications, which pieces of Windchill are you using? PDM Link for managing the product data throughout your whole organization, Project Link for managing or executing projects or compartmentalizing data for other needs or sharing it with folks, quality management systems, other areas. Is your company, visualization is included in Windchill to make lightweight viewables so that the engineers don't have to be the only ones that know what the stuff looks like, and they don't have to be the only ones that are responsible for generating or for producing, completed drawings and things like that. We can get folks to go grab their own drawings once they've been created and put them into Creo View. We can use it for markups. Just been helping a couple of companies here start playing with Creo Illustrate for making illustrations of their data. Creo Illustrate is kind of it's built on similar technology to Creo View, but it's purpose built for making different illustrations, whereas Creo View is just more viewing and markup. Navigate is one of the new areas we'll talk about again for, if your company has picked up Navigate, there are prepackaged solutions for Navigate, and then you can make your own as well to extend Windchill to folks who you don't want to do the full training for, but they still need to get information out of the tool. Work group managers for, the Creo one is of course included. All the PTC ones are included with base Windchill. But if you have divisions or sections in your company that are using other CAD systems, or if they're using electrical systems, there are some opportunities there to tie those in to the system. And then one of the other areas is your company already using any of the data sharing technologies that are either built into Windchill or are extensions and additions that can add on to Windchill. And then as far as getting more out of Windchill, this is one of those tangents we're going to go off on. The getting more out of Windchill isn't just necessarily getting more functionality. Hopefully Windchill is performing well for you, and that users aren't waiting for long periods of time for stuff to happen and things to get done. So another whole area of Windchill to look at is, how is it performing for you? If users are stuck waiting for this application to do stuff, then we can take another look at a combination of the third-party software that's plugged into Windchill. We can look at Windchill's configuration, and we can look at the hardware that Windchill is running on. And there's almost always going to be ways that we can improve that performance. So there's really no excuse for letting the user, for IT groups to let their users twiddle their thumbs waiting for stuff to happen in this program. If that is happening with any type of regularity, there are some opportunities for improving it based on system performance tweaking, or swapping out hardware, swapping components, and balancing things better. And if there's folks in your organization that are not, if there's no one in your organization that is really up to speed on that, talk to somebody else. Bring some folks in there to help you out. Again, that's one of the things that Integreyt has helped some folks help customers with over time. You'll notice I'm not mentioning customer names. We kind of make it a practice not to do that, especially in large groups, out of respect for their privacy. But there's a lot of different things that are going on. Other things about taking stock of what you have and talking about performance improvement. One of the areas that I also run into pretty often with folks not using to its full effectiveness is the searching capabilities within Windchill. So I'm going to take a moment here and just let these auto-populate on here. These are some of the different ways to do searching in Windchill. And as I kind of click through and show some areas in it, there's, whenever you have big tables, searching against all the text in the table. When you are doing, rather than opening up the search window all the time, if you configure your keyword search for things that are common things you might look for, then that's available on every Windchill page for usage and can get you quickly to where you're looking to go. However, the power that you need is only one click deeper to get to those, the advanced search, or to your search history, where you can either immediately rerun a prior search or click the little pencil to grab that criteria and start editing it. And keep in mind, any search that you've done, you can save, and save it either fully populated or save it with some variables in there for you to update. For example, if I wanted to do a search on things that I've modified within the past X days, I could make that as a search. And then every time I go to run it, I just have to update the day range or date range, whichever configuration I use, of which thing I'd want to look for. So those are a lot of different areas that we can do that for the system. Some other areas, you always get, whatever you've done for a search, and I occasionally click the wrong button. So, when your search window is going to remind you what was the exact criteria I searched on. So that's another one of the things that the search area does. And if you haven't turned this on, if you're using a Windchill 11 or later and you haven't turned this on yet, the faceted search is awesome. It's another way of filtering the search results so that you can start with a more general search and then filter it just like you saw on the PTC help document. Or if you're an Amazon user and you're doing a lot of searching and shopping these days, you've often got that facets or filtering that you can do on the left side of your screen, where you can pick and choose different areas and rapidly update the search results to control what's displayed. So those are, that's some of the things to talk about for looking at what the tools that you have today and ways to use that. As we kind of continue here, hit our half-hour mark. So I'm going to try and talk a little bit about, think about other future plans. And this is actually kind of was the start of this project, of the idea for this presentation, was companies that are using Windchill. They're very comfortable with how they're using it, but they're still going out and buying new tools from different vendors, different locations, and then trying to integrate them all together to solve different business problems. Don't forget what you already have. Windchill is a great base and a great platform to build off of and to build new things for. This next couple slides are going to be a mix of stuff I've thrown together and a mix of stuff I've copied from some of the PTC marketing material. So, so we can talk a little bit about that. The future capabilities, a couple different ways to look at it. Is there stuff, are you looking for better ways to make your product? Are you looking for things to do to analyze the parts or the products that you're working on? Or are you trying to share your data? These are just some different Windchill and PTC technologies that interact with Windchill that all help support that. Another way to think about that is think about the different roles that your organization has. If there's the designers, and here I'll just throw out some terms. We're not going to talk about these in any detail right now, but these are just some terms to think about and to maybe do some research on or talk to us about if you're looking for more information on that. But if you're looking for improving the design, then we would kind of focus on the Windchill MCAD data management package. If you're dealing with configurations or configurable products, that's the Windchill platform structures, or that I believe included, kind of includes the options and variants area. PTC has picked up some quality management tools that are now built into and integrate with Windchill. Similarly, there's risk and reliability studies and tracking that can be performed in the system. Manufacturing process plans, MPM Link has been one of the long haulers and has been with Windchill, been a Windchill module from nearly the beginning, and PTC keeps putting more and more capabilities into helping manage the differences between a manufacturing bill of material and an enterprise bill of material. They've also extended over the last decade or so a lot into the service industry through the service parts and information, Creo Illustrate, and some other ways to handle instructions and other areas. And then for those of you with electronic projects that have programming or electrical stuff, there's a bunch of service and systems engineering tools also within Windchill. And let's see here. There's also some industry-specific add-ons for medical devices, aerospace and defense, or retail areas as well. If you're getting into retail packaging, Flex PLM is a heavily customized section of Windchill that can either be installed. That one, actually, you're also going to install it as a separate server if you're going on that path, just because of how unique it is compared to the mainstream Windchill. But it is also pretty powerful for handling that type of work. I brought up Navigate earlier, or ThingWorx earlier. ThingWorx is another tool set that PTC has had. They have struggled for years and years to come up with an effective tool for the non-expert or casual users. ThingWorx Navigate is by far the best option that PTC's come up with for this so far. And it allows either the prepackaged applications to do task-focused activities in a as you can see on the screen, it is very simple. This does, again, sit on top of the main Windchill package. So those of us that want and need the power, we still got it. But for folks that don't need this, or for specific activities, you can pick this up. And it's relatively quick to make new interfaces this way that, again, address specific or task-focused areas for our non-expert users to help participate either through a view or a contribute or the full on connection. So those are some other areas in there. Another way of getting a lot more out of Windchill, make it talk to your other systems. Windchill is, as powerful as it is, it's not going to replace everything else that's out there. It is going to, there's still a need to talk to other systems. These are this list, the design I put together because I was just playing, but the list of items here is straight off of PTC's website as far as different ways to integrate with other systems. Some of these are extra purchases, and some of these are things that are already in the system, but there are a lot of different ways to make Windchill pull information from, or push information to, or share information with other applications that you have throughout your organization. So if when the need arises to have more than one application, because, well, let's face it, there probably always will be, Windchill, PTC has been very focused on making sure that Windchill is able to continue to talk to all of those things. It is not trying to be its own little island out there. Another way to look at this, back when we, if I go back to that Interlink slide, PTC's data management, when it first came out, was really only meant to manage the 3D files and the 2D drawings that went with it in the Creo area. But with the PTC different product lines right now, each of these columns is kind of under a different product line. There's been a lot of extension and growth over the years to allow the PTC tools to do more things than we know. I am by no means an expert on all of this stuff, but there is a ton of different things out here that we can do and utilize that all help interact with one another and can all help you and your organization be more effective in getting developing your products. And that's really the goal of Windchill for PTC, is to help folks get that stuff done. Some of this is even, some of this is pretty cutting and bleeding edge in terms of technologies. Some of the other areas, this is another one of PTC's slides, is talking about the whole digital engineering and doing even more things in the digital world and using the tools and electronics for taking ourselves much farther with our products. This is, so there's a lot of different ways that this tool can be utilized to really benefit. And it doesn't have to be big stuff either. With Windchill 12, PTC is introducing these extensions, which are small packages that can be added and plugged right into Windchill, and they can then help you address very specific little things. There are other, you can take small projects. We've talked a lot of, talked about both small and big steps that you can do to get more value out of Windchill. If you are currently using set state to change stuff or not changing states, getting promotion requests deployed doesn't have to take very long. If you are looking for better ways to find your data, maybe adding a couple of attributes or changing or building a couple of default shared searches and train your users on it. Maybe those are the ways that we can get some folks to feel better about this product. Maybe having us come in and do a presentation on using the help system effectively, or navigating, finding the other different ways for getting help in Windchill would help your users feel more comfortable with it. There are plenty of systems, there are plenty of folks I've been to and places I've been where there's only a couple of users that are inquisitive enough and comfortable using the tools out there to learn more about a product. And then the bulk of the users at that organization might be content using the 3 to 10% of the product that they learned initially and never really stretch beyond, despite the fact that there's still, that there's still stuff out there that could really save them some time and some headaches in their day-to-day life. So it doesn't have to be big steps. There can be little ones too. But one of the things, as I'm kind of wrapping up with the prepared part, is keep your ears open when your business, whether your department or your organization is looking at solving additional business problems, looking at other stuff. If you have Windchill in-house, maybe ask your admin team, ask your sales team, ask your consulting providers or partners, hey, can Windchill help solve this too? Because that may be a lot lower cost since it's already in-house, to add that bit of functionality and solve the same issue that you might otherwise have to bring something new in and undergo a major implementation or conversion project. So that's the end of, I guess that's the end of my prepared stuff. We can kind of switch over now to questions and answers. I see there's one thing in the chat right now. I'm going to temporarily stop my screen share and I can pop that back up if we need to, but I think we can go into Q&A stuff for now and see what thoughts you have.
Anybody?
There's a comment in the chat that says, do I need to upgrade to Windchill? A reseller says PDM link is no longer usable. So Windchill PDM link is the product. Windchill and PDM link are part of the same product. So I'd be curious if that's a version specific issue. One possibility would be that your organization is on a release of Windchill, the PTC, that is old enough that it's not under active maintenance anymore. So Mike, if you know the answer to that, do you know what release of Windchill you are using? That would help me answer that question again. I see a couple more names. Now I'm seeing a couple more names that I recognize now that I'm in this view. So yeah, if your PDM link was implemented like 8 years ago and it's not been upgraded since then, it would probably be valuable to consider an upgrade of the product. And that's something that we need to discuss when we knew what release you were on, what release you're interested in going up to. Because yeah, PTC does offer new releases pretty frequently. The current production releases are release 12, and there's a couple of 11 releases that I believe are still both under support as well. But yeah, PTC has been, normally, if you're not familiar with this, normally PTC provides, they call it active maintenance and then extended maintenance, or standard and extended maintenance are the two types that they have. While it's under those maintenance periods, PTC will be issuing critical patch sets to the Windchill product that support security issues, bug fixes, and occasionally new hardware support and new interoperability with other PTC modules and third-party products. Throughout the life of a main product, there's also usually now about 2 major maintenance releases that go out as well for each of the major Windchill releases. So for example, Windchill 12 will have our 12.0 will have 12.1 and 12.0 1 and 12.02 will be the major maintenance releases. If your company has PDM Link Essentials, that product is no longer sold. That was a lightweight flavor of Windchill. But it is in the chat now. And Henry, good to hear from you. I'm a little north of where currently a little north and west of where you and I worked together once upon a time. But the remote workforce has produced the biggest performance impact. And that does make sense, because if you have users out and about, getting files to and from are going to be a performance issue. And that's a good point. Most of the Windchill configuration is going to be beneficial for large sites, for site to site. But there are some performance things that we could investigate as well for helping the remote users get their data in and out of the system. And because one of the challenges with that is that for a remote user, if there's somebody that's, many miles away from their home office, we're not going to want to set up, say, a remote file server for one user in another location. That could be a bit of a challenge to maintain, but we might be able to find some strategies that would help them, and some configuration settings that would help them get their data more quickly. There's some compression settings that we can do, and there's some settings about how often Windchill's slinging data back and forth. Does Creo Illustrate typically run on a separate server from Windchill? So Creo Illustrate is an application like Creo Parametric. So you can install the application on the client computer, and once it's on that client computer, then you can use Creo Illustrate in one of 2 different ways. One is we could use it to work on files that are stored outside of data management. But then, the biggest challenge there is the files are outside data management. So if your organization is using Illustrate and using Windchill, what you would want to do would be to Illustrate can connect to Windchill, so it can pull files straight from Windchill or import and then link to them, so that when you're saving data, you're saving your files right back into PDM Link. And when Illustrate is actually set up so that it can recognize whether the source data has been modified or not, and it will then allow us to update that if you want it to update your illustration. So TJ, I hope that answered your question. No problem. I also happened to be walking through a building yesterday that had a bunch of your company's handiwork in it, and I pointed it out to the rest of the team I was with, said, I know those guys. So nice to see their stuff. And you can also get it if you're not able to see it in the chat, you can also get it back through Deb. Can hook you up with my email as well, and I'll be happy to do that. I want to thank everybody for your time today, And I'll stay on for a couple more minutes, but yeah, if you don't have a question, feel free to enjoy the rest of your lunch hour on this Friday. Since a lot of these folks, I think, are probably in Wisconsin and other places, for all the hunters, good luck this next week when you're going out for the deer, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thanks so much, Mark. I think we'll call this, unless somebody wants to speak up and let Mark get to the airport. I'm not sure when you're doing that, but probably have things to do too. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody. So we'll be talking again. Thank you.
All right.